I love this time of year. It is fall and I am in love with those fall shades. My name is Tia. I'm the owner of Nail Dip Studio, an online nail boutique that specializes in dip powder products. So I want to jump into this video today and just talk about some of those fall shades that I just love. And I wanted to do a quick video just showcasing the dry manicure process that I have for my nails before I start doing my dip application. I'm going to be showing you the shade GERRI, which is a beautiful deep burgundy mixed with chocolate shade. It is gorgeous, and I love this shade for the fall. So during this process here, during my dry manicure, one of the main things that I love to do is just really focus on nail prep. Nail prep is key. That's going to be, I think, the biggest saver of your dip application, because if you have not really created a surface where you have cleaned away any built up film or cuticle or just residue around the sides of your side walls and your cuticle area, that's not going to allow the product to really adhere. And one of the things I like to do is I love taking my cuticle pusher and really just focus on removing all of that cuticle film going around the side walls and around the cuticle area, taking my time, not doing too much, not trying to injure myself, but really just trying to prep my nails. And that also too helps with not getting hangnails or those little nail tags that you see on the sides of your nails. So this is one of those things that I personally like to do. Now, because I also rotate between an e-file and a nail file, I like to take the e-file and clean up that area. So once I've started to do the actual scraping or lifting, I then go in with the e-file and just polish everything up. And you can use different bits. I have probably about 30 of them. And so I use different bits for different things. I'm using actually this particular bit here to really buff out those sidewall areas and really to push back the cuticle and smooth that out so that it doesn't tear. So if you suffer from maybe like clipping your cuticles and you notice that now your skin is starting to split and you're having I would say like loose skin or hangnails or just, liftage, like lifting in that back area, you might want to try to use an e-file to help buff and smooth out that surface. So right here, I'm going to use a little bit of alcohol. Now, I personally love to do a two-step dehydration process. I like to take the alcohol with a cotton pad, wipe my nails down, let that dry for a second, and then I go in with the actual primer that also helps to dehydrate the nail. Okay, so once you've done basically all of that, you're going to really also to want to make sure that you set up your station. And I should have said that earlier, but one of the things that will help speed up your process in doing your application is just making sure that you have everything laid out at your fingertips. So have your towels, have your products, your liquid, any and everything that you need. Your candle is burning, you have some water on the side. Make sure you have all of your stuff needed to do your application, because if you have to stop and go grab and stop and go grab, that's going to add time to your application. So I just want to put that in as a side note. But as you can see right here, all I'm doing is applying the primer, and I like to apply like 1 to 2 layers depending on how long I'm going to keep this on. So now let's move into building the apex. I am someone who loves a curve. I love a curve in my nail. I love the curve in my nail to be at the middle, or I would say, bend point of my nail. And so I'm going to show you how I create that. I create that by using the clear dip powder. And as you can see here, I'm only putting step number 2, the base coat. I'm only putting that on my nail halfway. I'm not going past that midpoint. Don't want to do that. After I do that to all 10 fingers, I'm going to dust that powder off. What that does, it creates a very thin layer it's like a foundational layer that will help to start to shape that curve. Think of it like as a thin platform, but as you start to build layers on top of it, it's going to start to create that curve. And that's what you want to do if you have flat nails. Now, I specifically chose this shade, GERRI, for the fall line as one of my colors because I just love a good old vampy shade that flatters your skin tone, and it just screams fall, like with some fingerless gloves, you know, your black turtleneck, a chunky sweater, some leggings, your little military boots, or a pair of Uggs. That shade is just so amazing. So this is one of those shades that I've already now restocked twice. So I have some more coming depending on when this video goes up. It may or may not be available, but I just love this shade. I typically, for my darker shades, this is a tip, for the darker shades, I typically will do somewhere around 4 to 5 color full dip layers. That's how many I like to do. And I do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, you really want a true color payoff. The more layers, the darker the color is going to be, the more intense the color is going to be, the more pigment, the more true to color it will be. Once you've done that, you always want to go on top with the clear and seal with the clear dip powder. Once you've done that, provided that you don't have any lumps or anything that you need to file off, but once you've done that, then you can go into your filing process. But I love to have at least 4 to 5 dip layers of the true dark colors, especially with those darker pigmented shades, because your 3 full dips is not going to give you that color payoff. It won't. Like, you need that intense pigment shade to like shine through. You don't want to do 3 layers. And then the other thing about that, because I talk to people in my comments, you know, in all of my videos, and we'll go back and forth. I had a lady question, you know, how many layers do I normally do? And I explained to her I normally do about, you know, 4 to 5, depending on, you know, how long I want to wear the shade, what activities I have for that week, so on and so forth. And she was saying that that's just too much, that, you know, her nails, you know, she thought it was just too thick and this, that, and the third. And one of the things that we were going back and forth, just having the conversation, was when you dip your nails, and as you are dipping your nails, you will see when you get to the part where you actually have to file and shape, you are filing off more than likely a layer to 2 layers, like somewhere between 1 layer and like maybe 2 off easily during the filing process and during the buffing process. You're going to file off layers. So if you put on 5 layers and you buff off a layer, let's just say 1.5 layers for the sake of the conversation, that's going to leave you with 3.5 solid layers. But if you only have 3.5 layers on, and you foul off a layer and a half, that means you really only have 2 layers, and that's too thin. So most of you are experiencing cracking or chipping or just shattering of the actual application because you just don't have enough product on. And as you can see here, I'm showing you, and I put the paper towel down just so that you can sort of see. As I'm filing, I have to file, I have to shape. If you have any imperfections that you want to smooth out, do that before you go in with your clear dip powder, because you don't want that. You don't want to encase and add almost like a spotlight, like that frozen moment of, dang, I should have filed this before I put that clear powder on, because you can't get it out without over filing, and then you might as well just go ahead and add another layer because you would have gone down too far, and it probably will mess up the actual application, overlay application. But that's just, again, how I see things. You may see things different, but I do like to buff out, and sometimes, you know, you may have a shade and the pigment may be somewhat temperamental to work with. Just file and buff before you go in with the clear. That's okay. You don't even have to worry about that. I do it all the time. That's one of those sort of pro tips you see many of us doing. Like, don't think that our nails always look perfect. They don't. We have to work at filing and perfecting that. And also too, the more and more you do your nails, the easier it will become. Promise you that. That's without question. So back to the video. I'll stop with my rant. I'm dusting off the powder now, dusting off any of that leftover residue from the shaping and buffing, smoothing process that you just saw me go through. And these little dishes, you can get that little dish right there from the Dollar Tree, okay? And as I just, went on my rant, I'm about to seal my nails now. Again, you want to buff out any imperfections that you may have and then move into the encasing of the actual, the actual nail using the clear dip powder. Start out with a very thin layer, always using thin layers, always, and making sure you sweep the free edge and then dip your finger into the clear powder. That will basically save all of the hard work that you just put in by shaping and filing, but it also brings, it just brings that pigment like more life, because now you have that true color that you wanted, that deep color that you wanted if you're into vampy shades for the fall. And I am so here for them. So right now you just see me going in, dipping my nail into the clear powder, tapping off any extra, and I'm going to do this for the rest of my head. Now that you have completed and sealed all of your fingers with the clear dip powder, you want to move on to step number 3, which is the bond. The bond is a step that you cannot skip. You need to apply that to all 10 fingers, and make sure you do that really good. Saturate that nail, if you will. Make sure you get each finger, you want to make sure that bond gets down and really hits those layers so that it can actually start to create the bond or activate the powder and the base coat so that it's now hardened. And this is a step that I don't skip. I usually will put on 2 layers of the bond just to make sure that it's seeping down and hitting those layers the way that I need to. Also, don't forget to sweep the free edge. That is very important. Oftentimes, we will just swipe and brush the product down and forget about the free edge, and that can somewhat cause problems because you haven't created the relationship like you did on the other side of the nail plate, and so that can cause chipping, and or you just notice that the product is easier to move because it's not necessarily formed. So you just want to make sure you're doing that. Once you've let that bond sit for like a minute or two, grab your file, grab your buffer, and go ahead and start shaping and buffing and smoothing out your nails. Take your time with this. Make sure you are, really focusing on smoothing out the nails and getting out any texture that you may have. Now, you're going to move on to cleaning. And what I didn't show in the video was that I do 2 steps. Once I finish filing everything, I get up and I wash my hands with soap and water, and I do that twice. And that's because you really want to make sure that you're wiping off all of that bond. If you leave any bond on your nail and then you go to apply your top coat is going to, that brush will actually start to harden probably by the time you get to your 3rd nail. And it's going to be really hard for you to get that, bring that brush back to life. Now, I actually sell brush cleaner with my kits, so if that ever happens, you put the brush in the brush cleaner and it will actually break it down. I also, with my kits, you get 2 replacement brush tips, so you can pop the brush tip out, pop another one back in, you're good to go. But just make sure that you are using, after you've washed your hands and dried, I then come out and I take an alcohol, my alcohol spray bottle with my lint-free wipe, and then I wipe my nails down because you want to make sure that you don't have any lint from the paper towel on your hands and that you've really gotten all of that bond off. So that's what you're seeing me do. So that's important. The other thing is make sure that in between applications you take a lint-free wipe and a little bit of acetone, and you wipe down the insides of your bottle so that you're not having any buildup, any product buildup around the nozzle area. You want to make sure you're doing that too in between applications. So now that I've given you all of that, we're going to move on to the top coat. Top coat, very self-explanatory. This is the final step. You will add your top coat, add 1 layer, a thin layer. Usually let that layer sit for about, I would say, a minute to 2 minutes before you apply your second coat. And then you apply a second coat. Allow your nails to just sit there. Allow your hands to sit and dry. I would say probably for a good 10 minutes because you really want both the first layer of the top coat and the second layer of the top coat to settle and to dry. And that's going to create a beautiful shine. So if you're struggling with that, just give yourself opportunity to put the second layer on, just sit, throw on Netflix or something, catch up on Frankie and Grace, and yeah, your nails will come out perfect every time. Never use a fan to dry your nails. Don't plug up a fan and then turn the fan on and like, oh, I'm gonna put my nails in front of the fan, because what that does is a couple of things. One, it's picking up any dust and debris that you may have on your station, and it's gonna blow it onto your nails. Number two, it's gonna also create bubbles, like little like craters, if you will, on your nails, because it's like the air is not necessarily circulating all at the same speed, if that makes sense. So you're going to get different pockets of air hitting your nails, and that creates bubbles, if you will. Because hopefully that makes sense. So just give yourself some time. Just sit there, let your nails dry. I promise you, if you do and follow these steps, you'll knock it out of the park each and every time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, the shade that I'm using is GERRI. It is available on my website at naildipstudio.com. And until next time, keep dipping. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye, guys.